There is no Joni without Chochi. There is no Laverne without Shirley. There is no Mork without Mindy. And there is no Will Duggan without Laura Lexx. And together they are still a third thing added in for the format. It's National Treasure's bloody interviews. A whoop whoop whoop.
Yay! Yay! Welcome to the best part of my week, certainly, and hopefully yours. Hello, I'm Laura Lexx. This is Will Duggan. This is the National Treasures in... Oh, I punched my microphone. I'm so excited. Sorry about that, Will. You're going to have to edit that. Hello. How are you doing, Will? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I've not been at work today, so I get to wear a T-shirt that I like and not a big, massive hoodie that makes me look like a sackcloth and ash in human version.
No, you look good. I've eaten most of a cheesecake this week.
Flavour.
It was salted caramel and white chocolate, and I mixed almonds into the base to make a sort of dime vibe to it.
I love it.
I had a good time.
Do you remember the advert, the campaign? You never forget your first dime. You never forget your first dime. I don't
remember that one.
Well, as a young man, I was very impressionable, and the first time I ever had a dime bar, I was like, right, I have to remember this because this will come up again in the future. And it never has.
Oh, well, tell me about it now. Let's use it now, and then it's a tax-deductible dime.
I was in a playground in Gloucestershire with the friends of my mother, Carol Rees and John Rees. The children were called...
Hi, the Reeses.
Christopher Rees and Dominic Rees. Carol Rees had only half a middle finger on one hand. She got trapped in a door when she was young. I haven't seen them for a while. I wish them well.
Hello! Okay, now speaking of people we wish well, today is an exciting day at National Treasure's headquarters because we have a returning guest. Now, we're not entirely sure why she signed up to put herself through this again, but she has, and we're grateful. So, here to tell us all about the Monument to the Great Fire, would you please welcome back to your screen, Katie Davies? Hello!
Hello, thank you so much for having me again. I'm glad to be back.
Oh my goodness, we're so glad that you'd come back. And what a subject, the Monument to the Great Tower of London.
Nope.
I'm going to put my hand up.
No,
my God, I did this all the time last time as well. Okay.
I'll begin. Katie, when did you first get interested in the Tower of... Oh no, now I'm doing it too.
You're an arsehole. I hate you. Anyway, the Great Fire of London. Because, confession time. I lived in London for a few years. I've lived near London for the last 16 years. I've never once questioned why Monument Station is called Monument or thought to find out what it's a monument to. But it turns out, the fire.
Absolutely. Yep, it is the monument to the Fire of London, 1666, but officially is the monument.
So where is it? Sorry, Katie. Where is the monument?
So the monument is located in the City of London. So you're absolutely right. It's now the financial district. The exact location is just north and slightly west to London Bridge. So going down that approach road into London Bridge.
And like you say, it's a monument to the fire. Now, just
Correct.
In case anybody is not aware of the fire, I think we need a little bit of grounding in what the Great Fire of London was before we get into the monument. So can you give us a 30-second elevator pitch for a fire?
Yeah.
Pitch? We're not going to try and pitch it. Like, hey, have you thought about burning your city to the ground? Try Great Fire of London.
Yeah, we'll give it a good talking to. The Great Fire of London, 1666, started in the early hours of Sunday, the 2nd of September. It raged for 4 nights and 4 days. It destroyed 80% of the city of London. So that's basically everything that's inside that old Roman walls. 13,000 houses were destroyed. About 100,000 people were left homeless. Most of the churches, including St. Paul's Cathedral, was destroyed. Livery halls were destroyed. The fire was so intense, it burned at about 1,000 degrees centigrade.
Oh my God.
And even buildings, it carnage, just inferno. So it burned down not only the timber and the straw houses, but also the brick and the stone houses were so scorched that the structures were no longer structurally sound.
And why did it get so hot? Like I know I
It's fire, Will.
well, I have a
It's
GCSE in
fire.
chemistry. Like I know fire is hot, but 1,000 degrees, that's like
1,000 degrees. So a couple of different factors. The summer before was a drought. So everything was very, very dry. Most of the houses, buildings were made out of very combustible materials. So straw or timber roofs, wooden walls. And at this time, buildings were so jammed packed together. There were jettied balconies. So they reached so far across the road that you could shake hands with your neighbor across the street.
wow.
So not only side by side, but reaching across the street. The fire jumped very quickly. And the Lord Mayor of the City of London actually has a lot to blame for the spread of this fire because he refused to tear down the houses. This was very common.
To make a fire break.
Yes, exactly, to create a fire break. But when you tell somebody to tear down their house, you are then become financially responsible. So it was very much in London, as it was then, as it still is now, it's very much a renter's world. So the person who owns the property isn't living in the property.
Sure.
So it was very much a question of, well, if I tear down the house and if it burns by fire and if I rebuild it, who's financially responsible for all of that? So they went, nah, just let it burn.
So would there have been like insurance policies that these people would have had that, so like, was it slums and the landlords weren't that bothered because of what was going on?
So insurance happened because of the Great Fire of London, 1660.
No way!
What a great question I've accidentally asked.
Yeah, that's a great question, Will.
Yeah.
You should interview people for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. You think, what's the cause and effects? So after the Great Fire of London, as they were rebuilding and trying to figure out who was responsible and where property was, this was a great time to make, a grid pattern street instead of the spaghetti maze that it is still today. But people who owned the property, people who lived there would be like, no, I like where I live. I like where my shop is. Just leave it how it is. This is my spot. This is where I come home to. Yeah. And they were like, my fence is on this line. Well, no, actually your fence is on that line. So they had these fire courts and fire judges to distinguish who was right, who was entitled to what. And actually, most people were able to work it out for themselves. Most people made some sort of arrangement or bargain and were just eager to get their homes, their shops, and back to some sort of normalcy again.
So did the monument go up straight away? Because it feels like the sort of thing that I would not want to have a monument to if I'd lived through it. How did that work?
So in the plan to rebuild the City of London, King Charles II said, and let there be a monument to celebrate the rebuilding of the city. So we call it the Great Fire, we call it the Monument to the Great Fire, but it really should be a monument to celebrate the rebuilding of the city.
Okay.
So this rising phoenix out of the ashes.
Do we know what happened to, because again, I think like Laura mentioned, Pudding Lane, Great Fire of London, you learn it at school. I don't know the name of the baker who caused it. Do we know?
Thomas Fariner.
Wow, look at you, were so ready to grass him in. It's Thomas Fariner, he deserves it.
Yeah, there are a couple different spellings for Fariner, foreigner, or
bloody foreigners coming over here burning down our cities. What happened to him? Like, did he get punished? Did he get fined?
So they weren't quite sure what had started the fire, why the fire had started. He swears that he cleaned out his oven and that everything was as it should be. And so, yes, foreigners were blamed for it, particularly the French. Because again, this also has to do with insurance clauses and who's responsible for paying for the rebuildment. If it's just an accident, then one person has to pay it. But if it's an act of war started by a foreigner, then somebody else is responsible for paying it. The Catholics were also blamed at one point for starting it as well. So people wanted answers. They wanted somebody to blame. They wanted somebody to pick up the costs.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he got away with it scot-free in the end. No, that's
well. I mean, he lost his bakery.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He got off with it quite lightly.
Yeah. I suppose the thing I've never thought about before, but you've put it in really clear terms there. It was 4 days and 1,000 degrees, and I suppose just terror that the wind had changed and it had moved in a different direction. Where did people go then while this was happening? Did people, like, was there a mass exodus to places? I don't know what I'm asking, but what were people doing? Trying to put it out? Was there a fire service?
The actual size of the fire wasn't that big to run away from.
Okay.
So it spread 1.6 kilometers or 1 mile.
Okay.
So it ended at Pie Lane.
From pudding to pie. That's a good trivia question.
So that's right by Smithfields, very close to Smithfields or the Old Bailey, if you know where that is. Yeah, so people could outrun the fire.
Okay.
Samuel Pepys had time to bury his wheel of cheese in the meantime.
Parmesan, yeah.
Parmesan cheese, yep. So before he woke his wife, before he got his family and servants out, I'm going to bury some cheese.
So he could have like a fondue when he got back?
It's like a whole wheel of cheese.
Parmesan's so expensive, Laura.
Yeah.
Well, take it with you then. Don't bury it
And
under
heavy.
a fire.
And heavy.
He didn't bury it in the city. He must have gone outside and
okay. I thought he was just burying it underground, like, you know, when you bury a camembert. And
not like in his cell.
Deep in it. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, so it's about 1.5 kilometers. So people are fleeing. But then, so you said 80% of the homes in that area. How many people did you say that was homeless?
So about 100,000 people left homeless.
Jeez.
God.
Yeah.
How many people were in London at the time? What was the population of London, do you know, like at that time?
Just over that.
Oh, so it was
so most people.
Yes, so most of it. Yeah.
So then I guess those people, I mean, obviously they rebuilt some sort of living arrangements as quickly as they could, but was there a notable decrease in London population after that? Did many people just go, oh, fuck this is smelly and wooden and burning, I'm going?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, people were starting to move to Westminster, which had a bit more space, places where they would have considered the suburbs, but are in zone 2. So a little further east to, maybe Mile End, Whitechapel, or a little further north to Islington.
Okay.
So
someone who lives in East London, I cannot believe that slumming it. I live in zone 3 and I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
You're doing very well, Will.
This is when they lived where they worked. And you want to work and live where everybody is at.
Sorry to interrupt us, it's us. We just wanted to say a big thank you to Tom Bidmead, one of our wonderful patrons, who has upped his donation to the Committed Rambler level of patron to get the years and years. So thank you very much, Tom. You've been a subscriber since about day 1, I think, and we're very grateful to you for kicking it up a notch.
Yes, we put out a little fishing line with a morsel of free years and years on. Tom Bidmead snapped it up. He is now our greatest friend. And of course, if you would like to get all the extras you can get from being a patron of National Treasures, do head to patreon.com/National Treasures. And more than just the things you get, Laura, we have plans and goals. Shall we share them?
Yeah, we've been thinking about, if we loved a podcast rather, and were patrons, what would we want? So we've decided when we hit 25 patrons, so that's just 15 more, we will produce Years and Years every week. So it'll be on top of National Treasures podcast, on top of these interviews, there will be a Years and Years episode every single week in 15 patrons time.
Week. But in 50 patrons, which I think would make it 40 patrons more, Laura and I have a plan to go on a week-long trip around the UK, doing a week-long version of National Treasures, but unfortunately it comes with quite a lot of expense that we don't have. So you could give us that because you love us. But it's a lot of exciting things on the horizon. But mainly, thank you, Tom Bidmead. Thank you to you, of course, for listening. This will always stay free, but if you want the extra, the cool bits, then do head to patreon.com/National Treasures.
Back to the interview.
The monument. We've covered the fire now. The actual monument itself. Why is there a monument? I know Charles II said we should have one, but why this particular thing? Like the plague had hit London, there have been wars. Why is there a monument to this one thing and not hundreds of other bad things that happen in London? Or are there, and am I just ignorant?
That's a great question. I don't know if there are other monuments to plagues or other such events, but because of the catastrophe, and I think it's really more a celebration of the new styles of architecture that's available, the new science and engineering. This is also the time of the birth of the Royal Society.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really a celebration of the opportunity to use all of our new skills.
Right.
Speaking of which, what does the monument look like? Can you describe it for us?
The monument is made out of Portland stone. It's a Doric column with a flaming gold urn on top.
Okay.
Around the base, there are a number of friezes. The most elaborate frieze depicts Charles II as a Roman emperor.
Oh, God. That's a bit much, isn't it?
Yeah. And he is giving a scroll to the city of London saying, let's rebuild. And there are all sorts of imagery and illustrations of the city of London being industrious with beehives and people rebuilding the city in the background.
I love it. That must have been quite difficult to decide what it, like a flaming urn, that it's quite a delicate thing to get right, what it's going to look like, isn't it?
Yeah. So Robert Hooke, who designed the monument under the supervision of Christopher Wren, one of the initial proposals was to have a statue of King Charles on top. Mm-hmm. So think very much like Nelson's column, right? Very tall Doric column, statue on top. But King Charles was like, no, if you put me on top of that column, they're going to think that I started the fire.
I have been doing a bit of research about the monument, and I found a claim that a few websites have said is rumor, a few websites have said is absolute fact, and a few websites have said is a lie. So I'm going to ask you, an expert. Apparently, if from the base of the monument, if you were to lay it down on its side in a certain direction, the tip of the monument laid horizontally would hit the exact point where the fire started. Is that true or false?
That is correct.
Boom. Take that, lying websites.
Yeah, so that is based on Robert Hooke's calculations. So the monument is 202 feet tall, or 61.5 meters.
Whoa, that's higher than I thought.
Yes, yes. It is really a question of where was Thomas Faner's bakery and where was the oven in which the fire started. So there is now a plaque that's in the middle of a street. It's a very small brass plaque. It's usually covered by a parked car, and it is in the middle of the street. So do be careful when you look. That is believed to be where the oven is supposed to be.
Oh.
Because obviously the city was rebuilt, so some streets got shifted. So Pudding Lane isn't exactly where Pudding Lane was before.
Is it still called Pudding Lane?
It is still called Pudding Lane.
I really like that part of London where the old markets used to be. But there's it's so weird because it is in like the city now where all the city boys go, but there's Milk Street, Bread Street, Fish Street. It's just where you would buy your X, Y, and Z. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
My favourite is always Threadneedle Street. I think that's a really nice name for a road. Threadneedle Street. You can climb them on, well, not climb it, but you can go up it, can't you?
Absolutely, yes. So this was part of the original design. Inside is a spiral staircase with a hollow center. So the stairs wrap around the inside of the wall to reach a platform. That's, very close to 60 meters. I think it's something like 55 meters or something like that above the ground. And people have been climbing the monument since 1677, since before it was completed, actually. So it was completed in 1677 in March, but as soon as the platform was up, so scaffolding was still up, people were climbing up to get a view of the city. And people were paying for the privilege. It is one of the oldest paid tourist attractions in London.
You said Samuel Pepys buried his cheese and went away.
Yes.
Other than Samuel Pepys, were there any like celebrities at the time people were aware of? Like I know Shakespeare was dead, but like that sort of anyone else affected that we'd know of?
So Samuel Pepys was very good friends with William Penn, who was the father of the founder of Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
William Penn. So important for us Americans, a Quaker. You have Christopher Wren and his architecture students, Nicholas Hawksmoor, Robert Hooke. And then shortly after this, you have Isaac Newton coming on board. So Isaac Newton is inspired by these people.
I love it.
Fantastic. Okay, Katie, we've asked you many questions which you've answered expertly, succinctly, wonderfully. Do you have any questions for us?
I have questions for you. My first question is, how many stairs are there in the monument?
In that one spiral staircase?
Yes.
Okay.
100.
More.
Right, I think there's 1,500.
Less.
180.
More.
600.
200.
But 180 is a very good guess.
185.
It's not close to that, but it's a very similar number.
280.
No.
1,800.
380.
Better.
800. Oh.
So there's 365.
Oh, one for every day of the year. I like
One
that.
for every day of the year. Yes.
Ah.
So
What's
the
that?
monument
It's
is
double it,
actually
nearly.
a telescope.
Wait, what? I talked over something and then a telescope happened.
Yes. So the monument is actually a telescope.
Because tele means see and scope. It's not a telescope like.
No, it's a telescope to chart the stars. So there's a lab underneath the monument.
We've buried the lead on this conversation a little bit. If we're in the quiz section and we're only just discovering this, what? There's a lab?
Yes. So Robert Hooke was a polymath. He was an astronomer. He was a physicist. You may have heard of Hooke's law, studied in school about spring force. So while he was building this for the city, he was like, I'm going to use it for some fun as well. So he was very interested in astronomy. He wanted to chart the movement of the stars and the planets, some constellations. He really wanted to prove to people that the Earth revolved around the sun. So That's why the monument is hollow. That's why it's a spiral staircase with a hollow center. And that's why the urn is very important. So, Will, going back to your point, the urn opens up.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. He originally pitched it to the king, be like, we can shoot fireworks from it. That has never happened in my lifetime.
For a monument that is dealing with the aftermath of a fire, shooting fireworks.
Yeah.
To celebrate the memory of the day we all got food poisoning, we always eat semi-cooked prawns. Yay!
Right. They'll still be controlled.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So it opens up and then you can look at the stars from underneath.
Yeah.
This is some James Bond, Dr. Evil kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Why the hell did architecture move on from that?
Well, he was a polymath. He was everything.
Wish I was a polymath.
Yeah.
So this might... Do you have to lie on your back to look up it?
Yeah. So the urn is closed now, so the rain doesn't get in. But you can, it is a beautiful symmetry piece of math looking up or down the spiral staircase. It's so elegant, the precision.
Do you get to go and look at the lab and the telescope on the tour?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So your ticket includes walking up the stairs. So it's 365 steps to the very top of the urn, but to the platform, it's only 311.
Okay, all right.
So I save you about 50 steps there.
Okay, well, neither of us got that point.
Yeah, that's 0 each.
Okay, so we talked about pudding lane.
We did.
What does the word pudding originate from in pudding lane?
I love the little dance you're doing because we haven't got an absolute clue.
I'm trying to think of something that's not really stupid. I'm so tired of watching these back and just going like, why am I so stupid?
Is it a derivation of put in lane? And they would
No,
put
it
things
still
in.
has something to do with food. So think of Yorkshire pudding.
Okay. Did they make Yorkshire puddings there?
Is a pudding like a vessel for food, like a pastry case or something?
Is pudding bread?
No, but it's what you would have used to make pudding. So to make Yorkshire pudding, have you made Yorkshire pudding from scratch?
Yes.
So you have to put the beef suet in to heat it up. So that's the beef fat, possibly some entrails. They would bring the animal carcasses, what was left over, so what wasn't sold at market, down pudding lane to dump it into the river. And so a lot of the random bits of the animal would fall off on the bumpy way down pudding lane. So it's really nice because people think, oh, it's a bakery. You sell puddings. Yeah.
No, it's beef kidney. It's beef kidney and sawdust.
It's all that offal and entrails.
God, that's fascinating. So pudding. So I guess like having like offal pies became pudding pies, and then we just took pudding from that, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great. Well, I mean, a good fact, a disgusting fact, but still no points for anyone.
No, these are good questions. I'm really enjoying this.
They're so hard. They're so hard. All of our guests just give us... we'll chat about the monument, and then the question will be, oh, guess what the old Saxon word for kidney was? I don't know. I just want to get one right.
So talking about the frieze that celebrated King Charles II as the Roman emperor, there's a female figure that's embodying the city of London. Who do you think modeled for this female figure?
Oh, so it's not, the answer isn't say Britannia, it's who sat for the modelling of...
Yes, so who is the actual...
Nell Gwyn!
Nell Gwyn!
Yes!
Are you fucking kidding me? Where have you pulled that from?
Because she was his mistress.
Yep. Absolutely
Yeah,
correct.
I knew that. I actually knew that as a fact. She was his mistress. So, that's cool. So she represents London. She was great. She's one of my favorite characters from
She's a really
history.
cool person.
Yeah.
I-
Will is so fuming. Look
No,
at him. He
I
can't
know,
even
I'm
be
not-
entertaining on his own show because he's so angry.
I'm not fuming. I'm genuinely blown away with him. I'm impressed with the two of you. Like,
You've heard of Nell Gwyn, though.
I haven't heard of Nell Gwyn.
You've never heard of Nell Gwyn?
Right. No, I haven't heard of Nell Gwyn.
Oh. I thought she's just quite famous, that's all. I'm not trying to be like, you're so dumb, because...
Well, that's how you're coming across, actually.
Well, just watch any of the other
how's
videos.
Your restoration theatre?
Sorry?
How's your restoration theatre fest?
Oh, I think theatre is a waste of time.
Thank you so much, Katie, for coming back on. And I'm so delighted that you came back on and I managed to talk to you and only get the name of what you were telling about us wrong once instead of every time I said it. So thank you very much. So the monument, obviously it's shut now, everything's shut now, but when it's open, what sort of a day out are we talking? Is it half a day? Is it an hour? What are we doing on our day in London and when we're fitting the monument?
Yeah, so please come visit us when we are allowed to reopen safely. Most people spend on average 30 minutes
Great.
at the monument. They usually couple it with Tower Bridge because you can get a combined discount ticket for Monument and Tower Bridge. Or they also do it with St. Paul's Cathedral if you're on a Great Fire tour. And if you decide to climb steps for all three, you can get over 5,000 steps in your day. So if you're on your, fitness tracker wanting to get your steps in, do the step challenge.
Amazing.
So it's 311 steps. It is all steps. Most people take about 5 or 7 minutes to climb to the top. I always tell people, don't worry if you're not used to climbing stairs, especially after this pandemic. I live on a ground flat. I can't remember the last time I climbed any steps at all. But there are lots of windows, so it's really cool to look out the windows to see the rising skyline as you're going.
That's nice.
And there are also marble steps, so there are lots of fossils that are in the steps. So I always tell kids, or adults, because we're all kids, like, keep an eye out for fossils as you're on your way up. So it makes the journey up really nice and easy.
Oh my God, I'm dying to go now.
So I imagine that accessibility wise, it's not brilliant if you can't go up. Is there anything that you could do? Not you personally. I mean, if you were someone, like, anything you can do about that? Get a lift in. But like, is there any books or websites or an audio guide or something that you would recommend to people who couldn't necessarily climb, that still wanted to learn about
we're always our welcome hosts are stationed at the base of the monument, and we're always happy to tell you about the Great Fire of London, about the monument itself. Yes, there is no lift access. I did have one person carry his best friend up.
That's nice.
That's a best friend.
They were training for it. I warned them. It's narrow. It's 300. I was like, I held my breath the entire time, but they're like, no, this is what we do. I carry him up, and we experience this together.
Legends.
Yeah.
So, and if you want to go up and you're in a wheelchair or have issue walking, that guy's phone number is
My hero. 1-800 my hero.
So when people are obviously fascinated by you and facts about the monument to the Great Fire of London, what social media should they follow for you and or facts?
I now have a Twitter account.
Yay!
Posted from last time. And please, yes, follow me on Twitter. I will eventually have some sort of posts up there. It is Katie Irene 314.
I'm going to it
Katie
right now.
Irene 314.
Thank you so
Yay!
much for coming back on the show, our first returning guest. We're so grateful to you, and we can't wait to come and see the Tower Bridge and the monument to the Great Fire of London with
very
you.
good.
not the
good.
Tower of
Oh,
London.
thank you so much. This has been a great questions. Absolutely brilliant. And I thank you for giving me a chance to talk about it these past few months. I'm like, do you want to hear some facts? So thank you for letting me share my facts with you.
Wonderful. Thank
We
you,
always
Katie.
want facts. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
And there we go. Another brilliant interview by me and you.
Yes, and if you want to follow us and see all of these videos and podcasts and things that we do, we are at Treasures Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and you can email us at nationaltreasurespodcast@gmail.com if you would like to be on the show, or if you know someone that would be great, or if there's a place you want us to cover. Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon page. We put up a video a week there, extra, some of the stuff that doesn't make it into this, the secret and special for the people that support us financially. And we also do our own secret special podcast called Years and Years, where we pick a year and tell each other all the stuff we can find about that year. So sign up for all those things.
Yep. I'll be honest, I thought we'd probably share some of that, but
Oh, sorry, I just
Laura's
tried
covered it.
talking.
Laura's covered it. Thanks for watching.